Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Or if you're new here, welcome. My name is Sophie, and this is my YouTube channel. I sadly have a bad hearing loss, so I'm sorry if I sometimes speak too loud or too quietly. But I hope you will find this video interesting anyways. All crime videos are made for educational purposes only. And today we are going to talk about the killer Nannie Doss, also known as the Giggling Granny or the Black Widow. She was even called a self-made widow by a newspaper. Nannie was born as Nancy Hazel on November 4, 1905 in Blue Mountain, Alabama. Her parents were Louisa Holder and James Hazel. Nannie was one of 5 children. She had 1 brother and 3 sisters. Both Nannie and her mother hated James, who was a very controlling father and husband. James would force the family to work on the farm instead of attending school, resulting in Nannie's poor academic performance. At age 7, while the family was taking a train to visit relatives in southern Alabama, Nannie hit her head on a metal bar on the seat in front of her when the train suddenly stopped. For years after, she suffered severe headaches, blackouts, and depression. She blamed these and her mental instability on that accident. During childhood, her favorite hobby was reading her mother's romance magazines while dreaming of her own romantic future. Nannie's father forbade the Hazel sisters from wearing makeup and attractive clothing to prevent them from being molested by men. He also forbade them to go to dance and other social events. Nannie was first married at age 16 to Charlie Braggs, her co-worker. With her father's approval, they married after only 4 months of dating. Braggs was the only son of a single mother who insisted on continuing to live with him after he married. Braggs' mother took up a lot of his attention and limited Nannie's activities. They had 4 daughters from 1923 to 1927. The stressed-out Nannie started drinking, and her casual smoking habit became a heavy addiction. Both unhappy partners suspected each other, and Braggs often disappeared for days on end. In 1927, the couple lost their 2 middle girls to suspected food poisoning. Soon after, Braggs took firstborn daughter Melvina and fled, leaving newborn Florine behind. Braggs' mother died not much later, and Nannie took a job in a cotton mill to support Florine and herself. Braggs brought Melvina back in the summer of 1928. Braggs and Nannie soon divorced, and Nannie took her 2 girls back to her mother's home. Braggs always maintained that he left her because he was frightened of her. Her second husband was Robert Franklin Harrelson. They met and married in 1929 when she was 24, about 2 years after her divorce from Braggs. They lived together in Jacksonville with Melvina and Florine. After a few months, she discovered that he was an alcoholic and had a criminal record for assault. Despite this, the marriage lasted 16 years. Nannie's daughter Melvina gave birth to Robert Lee Haynes in 1943. Another baby followed 2 years later, but died soon afterward. Exhausted from labor, Melvina thought she saw her visiting mother stick a hatpin into the baby's head. When she asked her husband for clarification, they said Nannie had told them the baby was dead, and they noticed that she was holding a pin. The doctors, however, couldn't give a positive explanation. The grieving parents drifted apart, and Melvina started dating a soldier. Nannie disapproved of him, and while Melvina was visiting her father after a nasty fight with her mother, her son Robert died mysteriously under Nannie's care on July 7, 1945. The death was diagnosed as asphyxia from unknown causes, and 2 months later, Nannie collected $500 life insurance she had taken out on Robert. In 1945, after an evening of particularly heavy drinking, Harrelson raped Nannie. The next day, she discovered Harrelson's corn whiskey jar buried in the ground as she tended her rose garden. The rape had been the last straw for her, so she took the jar and topped it off with rat poison. Harrelson died a very painful death that evening. Nannie met her third husband, Arlie Lanning, while traveling in Lexington, North Carolina, and married him only 3 days later. Like Harrelson, Lanning was an alcoholic womanizer. However, in this marriage, it was Nannie who often disappeared, and for months on end. But when she was home, she played the doting housewife, and when he died of what was said to be heart failure, the townspeople supported her at his funeral. Soon after, the couple's house, which had been left to Lanning's sister, burned down. The insurance money went to Nannie, who quickly banked it, and after Lanning's mother died in her sleep, Nannie left North Carolina and ended up at her sister Dovie's home. Dovie was bedridden soon after Nannie's arrival. She died under mysterious circumstances. Looking for yet another husband, Nannie joined a dating service called the Diamond Circle Club, and soon met Richard L. Morton of Jamestown, North Carolina. They married in 1952 in Emporia, Kansas. He didn't have a drinking problem, but he was adulterous. Before she poisoned him, she poisoned her mother, Louisa, on January 1953, when she came to live with them. Morton met his death 3 months later on May 19, 1953. Nannie married Samuel Doss of Tulsa, Oklahoma in June 1953. Doss was a Nazarene minister who had lost his family to a tornado in Madison County, Arkansas. Samuel disapproved of the romance novels and stories that his wife adored. In September, Samuel was admitted to the hospital with flu-like symptoms. The hospital diagnosed a severe digestive tract infection. He was treated and released on October 5. Samuel died on October 12, 1954. Nannie killed that evening in her rush to collect the 2 life insurance policies she had taken out on him. This sudden death alerted his doctor, who ordered an autopsy. The autopsy revealed a huge amount of arsenic in his system. Nannie was promptly arrested. Nannie confessed to killing 4 of her husbands, her mother, her sister, her grandson, and her mother-in-law. The state of Oklahoma centered its case only on Samuel Doss. Nannie was prosecuted by J. Howard Edmondson, who later became governor of Oklahoma. She pled guilty on May 17, 1955, and was sentenced to life imprisonment. The state did not pursue the death penalty due to her gender. Nannie was never charged with the other deaths. She died of leukemia in the hospital ward of the Oklahoma State Penitentiary in 1965. So what do you think about this case? Was it fair, or was it just bizarre? I hope that you liked listening to this, and see you in the next case.